This is great. And,
So this
so,
is, we hope not.
I want another. Very informative.
Anybody.
Very informative. So, Mary said that I could start the process by, I want to thank Mary for agreeing to have the special meeting with the Board of Selectmen, Economic Development Commission, and the PZC. So the purpose of my request to meet is to work collaboratively in order to bring businesses to Stafford. The Planning and Zoning Commission has accomplished a great deal of work in the past year and a half, working on reviewing every word of our regulations in order to correct errors, revise our regulations based on Stafford's current needs, and promulgating regulations such as the current farm regulations, which was also a collaborative effort with the Agricultural Advisory Commission. So based on the above work, the Planning and Zoning Commission needs to shift gears. And that's is to start to plan for the future of Stafford. And this planning needs to be done together with the Board of Selectmen, the Economic Development Commission, and as we move forward with our goals, I believe we should also then open up these meetings to the business community and the citizens of Stafford to work collaboratively, and this is what Mary is promoting also, is that the discussion be town-wide. This is for our town. So the first item on the agenda that we worked up was to review each committee's roles and responsibilities regarding marketing and planning to encourage businesses and industries to Stafford. So I guess if Mary...
Do we want to start and like introduce
Oh, certainly.
who is on?
Certainly.
That would be the
I'm
best
Nancy Ravetto, Chairman of the Planning and Zoning.
Tony Frasnelli on the Economic Development Commission.
Diane Biliak on the Economic Development Commission.
Kathy Bakiaki on the Planning and Zoning.
Steve Squire, Economic Development.
Cindy Rummel, Planning and Zoning.
Ron Bull, Planning and Zoning.
Gene Julian, Planning and Zoning.
Dave Palmer, Planning and Zoning, alternate.
I'm Dave Perkins, the zoning enforcement officer.
Yep, Chris Joseph, Planning and Zoning, alternate.
Marion Rios, Economic Development.
Richard Chuck, Chairman, EDC.
John Locke, Board of Selectmen.
Yurita, for Selectmen.
Thank you.
Righty.
Very good. So I leave it up to you, Mary, if you want to talk about what you believe the Board of Selectmen role or responsibilities are for encouraging businesses and industry. I guess where I'm coming from is I think your office may sometimes be the first contact with a business.
That's not always true.
It's not always true,
It's
but
not always true.
if you do get a contact, what do you think the Board of Selectmen will do with that? Where do you go next?
Does the EDC have a new business package? Like if somebody were to say they wanted to come to town, like a package, is there anything like that?
I can't answer a lot for the EDC.
Right, I know.
A couple meetings.
You just
I'm
started,
just started.
understand, that's why
Curious.
this is
Well,
good.
something
Yeah.
that
Welcomes
says,
people to the
yeah,
town.
Like somebody's coming and wants their business to come here, you know, this is.
I believe, and
contact
Tony and Diane
information.
can answer it, I believe they were working on one, or they have one.
I'm new as well, but I mean, they hadn't met since
Steve?
September 5th.
They haven't since Mike and Bruce quit.
Okay.
So, and if you want to know anything, ask Sal for the book.
Okay.
He quit and he's got the book from years ago till now.
But Chamber of Commerce sometimes does things like
Right.
that.
And we don't have a chamber.
We
of
do
commerce,
actually.
Do we? Do we?
Yeah, if you talk to a friend already, or I think one of the interviews, there's a Chamber of Commerce and they actually have like a little booklet.
Well, I guess, Tony, I'll ask you,
Maybe we
the
should get that
previous
involved.
years, did any
Right, the town and county. right.
business
Not the
contact
towns,
you or any inquiries come into the
yeah.
office?
She said, you know, Thomas.
Yeah, I mean,
They've had some
you
inquiries.
get emails or somebody will stop in the office, talk
Yeah.
about, or get word from a resident about the potential interest in the town. So yeah, we certainly talked about creating this and try to get this together with the EDC to make in essence a welcome package. Hey, how do we, number one, put it on their social media and on the website, and then two, create this little package, welcome, with information regarding Stafford, And there was some changes we made to the website to incorporate some of that, but then the EDC kind of trailed off, and didn't quite get it solidified. So I think it's a great first idea when this group finally gets together.
So
And
Richard.
I do think it's great that you pulled everybody together, because you are right what I said, we have to work together. Everybody in town, not just a few people, not just whatever, every group in this town has to work together,
Mhm.
because you're absolutely right, we need to change our direction, and we also, we're gonna be coming up in a crisis, and we have to figure out how we can do it, and we have to do it together. So I'm really glad for this committee and to hear different ideas about what is being said.
I have a question. I understand there's been a big gap in EDC meetings, and I was just wondering why. Has it been a lack of a quorum? Because I know. 100% lack of a quorum.
Lack of quorum.
And then there was turnover with, I've been on it for 2 years, and there's been 3 chairmen.
Why is that?
Four
Do we
chairmen.
know?
There was a lack of leadership for about a 4 or 5 month period who did not set any meetings.
Yeah,
It
September.
didn't set any
But
meetings.
before that, you were saying there was turnover before that.
Yeah,
And-
so
well,
in 2 years,
it's-
there's been 4 chairmen.
Well, and since then, I know
Why is
Rich was named chairman a month and a half ago or something, 2 months ago.
Oh.
And you haven't been able to meet since then either. So I'm just wondering, why aren't members coming to the meetings?
The members weren't, I'm told that there was a meeting.
So this past attempt to put together a meeting, finally we got an email 3 days prior to the actual setup of the meeting. I suggested through email to the other members, hey, let's find out when everybody's available, or the majority, let's set it up that way, as opposed to the attempt to set a meeting without contacting
Isn't there a regular
anybody.
meeting schedule on file with the clerk?
No, because it's expired from last year, so
Mm-hmm.
that's
It
the
wasn't
attempt. So I
done,
think
right,
Rich
from
certainly would be
September.
amenable to the idea that, hey, let's see who can meet when and get a majority, and let's set the agenda and the calendar for the year, and then let's move forward.
I think
Absolutely.
maybe Rich could explain better. I didn't know, but I went to this last meeting that we couldn't have, but he explained that we can't have a meeting, or you should explain that.
For,
Because we can't have a meeting because we have to set the
well,
agenda
all of
You
our
have to have a
meetings,
special
all of our
meeting.
meetings will be special meetings, but I'll try to coordinate.
until we
to
can get a
when we can-
quorum.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I think he finally was given the, everybody's email address, in his defense, he didn't have that contact info, so nobody knew, who's still around, who's still.
Yeah, I called the first meeting and I assumed that people were gonna be notified, nobody was notified.
Right.
So the second time around,
We're closer.
it was closer.
That's okay, I think we
Right.
can move past that.
Yep.
The 5 months of nobody being there, and I think we need to move past that and just now move forward.
Look
If
at
we're
the
gonna do anything-
accomplishment now. You're going to set your meetings. You're going to be able to contact them. Well, that's our first accomplishment.
Well, they got the notice for this meeting.
Right. Right, they did get the notice. I've been emailing, you've been emailing, we've been talking.
But I know, you know what, I think we just need to move forward. That's what we're all here for. I
So-
believe all of the committees are here to move forward.
So the EDC is
Ron,
going
do
to
you
be
have a
setting their
question?
meetings.
No, I've
Yeah.
just had a statement.
Oh, what?
I'd like to, I mean, everybody here knows everybody personally at this table.
Absolutely,
So we should just throw the politics out the window.
absolutely.
We are.
No R&Ds, put S's on our shirts, and we gotta get this thing done.
Well, that's
Right,
what we
that's what I'm
just,
saying, no more, okay, there's been no more meetings,
Right.
let's just move on.
so the first thing
And Rich is, okay.
EDC is going to do is to set up their regular meetings, and that's a wonderful first step. Our role and responsibilities is at the end of the process. And at the end of the process, meaning that any business or industry would have to come to the zoning board.
They go to,
But we do have the ability to have a preliminary meeting
Sure, you're
with
gonna be invited
anyone.
To come.
And that, you are not legally bound by that discussion.
No strings attached.
So if someone says, well, your regulations, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I say, no, go and talk to the planning and zoning commission.
Treat each one on its own
Call
merit.
Dave and
Well,
tell him
it's,
to,
right, the pre-application process, which is non-binding on either the
Non-binding.
commission or the, they're not even an applicant, it's just a presenter.
and I
we're,
think Dave has done that.
Right, right. So the EDC, if in your work you can contact someone and they said, oh, I don't think we can work with your planning and zoning board, you say, no, meet with them and see what you can do to work things out. And I think that's where the misconception has been, that it's all rigid. We're not rigid.
No, get them in the building first.
Get them in the building and keep them in the building.
But they have to want to come to the building.
We're still
Right.
not gonna put a head and bring it.
And that's the next question, how do you get them to come to the building, to Stafford?
But whatever, I mean, back to the planning and zoning, whatever our regulations say is what they have to follow.
Right.
They can't have an informal discussion and say, you know, I can't meet this regulation, and the commission doesn't have the authority to waive it.
True.
So if that,
That's why there's an appeal.
those are the things we need to guide them through up front to let them know. You know, possibly you're gonna need a variance or, you know, different things. So we collectively together,
Right, and you
Richard,
you can actually propose regulation
they
changes.
could propose regulation
I mean,
changes.
you could
yeah.
too as the commission.
so
Correct.
we don't want you to say, no, you can't do that, so don't go see them, that's
No,
what
I'm
we're
not,
trying to say.
I'm not saying that, but the
Okay.
commission has to be careful how much they're proposing for regulation changes for special applicants, because it opens up liabilities for the town.
Correct, but that's
Yeah.
where you can sort of be the buffer
The
people out in
EDC
front.
could actually
Right,
propose.
right,
That's
that's how we
right.
would work together,
Right.
Richard, you could call Dave, or you could call me and say, oh, they wanna come.
Yeah,
and-
buffer it out before.
Right, because we
Right,
can't
and,
let we can't let the planning and zoning be in that seat because of the liability back on the community.
mhm, definitely. And that's how working together is really gonna accomplish it. It seems as though Stafford has 3 strikes against it, I've been told. The infrastructure, the population, and the medium income being low.
For what, businesses to come in?
Mm-hmm. The marketing analysis, that's what I've heard on several of them, whether that's true or not, that's what I've heard. I haven't done a market analysis, but it seems to reason. And so in order to get around those 3 strikes against us, perhaps there could be some incentive for business or industry or retail to come into town, such as a tax abatement, maybe for a year or 2, with the stipulation that they have to remain in town and viable for like 4 years, so at least you can get some of the taxes back. Or if they don't follow with that contract, that then they have to do the back taxes, or just like a lower tax rate for several years, just until they get established. Is that possible through the Board of Selectmen or a town meeting?
But would you want that as an enticement to get them
Yes.
here? Why would you get them here first? Just to
How
make sure
would
it's
you,
viable.
you've gotta get them here, and with those 3 strikes, it seems
But
they're
aren't you
not
gonna open the
coming.
floodgates up?
Um,
But now existing
you
business.
don't have to give it to them.
That's not so bad.
It's not a given, just.
Without
Right,
getting
Tony?
so far into the details, I think what we utilize first is a full-time marketing person who's ideal for figuring out how to attract business. Stafford, right? So she's done a lot of work, done a lot of work on the website, she's done a lot of work on her own. She's the exact right person to help us put the face on Stafford and how do we attract, what's the game plan, these 3 groups, and
To
what
market
are we
outside.
gonna
Get
do?
the
Right,
invitation out
so
there.
we create this
That's
pamphlet,
right.
brochure,
It has to be
how do
marketed
we do that?
outside the town.
What's been done to date?
Could I make one
Let's
point?
hear.
The EDC has a pretty well developed, it's just about completely done, tax abatement program that, because we haven't met or anything, it hasn't been further, it hasn't been put to a vote, but we're just about ready to move it on.
Who's got the, is there a document?
Pardon?
Is there a document?
There is, and Andrea has it right now.
Oh, Andrea.
She was the chairman,
Okay.
and then she had to leave, because you can only be chairman for 1 year.
That's pretty helpful info.
Have we had any interest?
Interesting. I've had people personally come and call, nothing, a lot of people have called to get my opinion on Stafford and as a whole.
People from
They
your
call-
town?
Different people, they've literally called my office saying that you seem to have a kind of ear to the ground and we see you a lot of different places just as a conversation. I think I talked to you about the brewery, as for example.
Is there a marketing package that you could hand to somebody today if they came in?
I would love to create one. I think it would be a collaboration with the EDC. I would call it that new perspective packet. It would be the community profile, license applications, business resources, planning and zoning information, town hall services. These are all just things that I came up with, but it would be a collaborative piece that we could create together.
Excellent.
Fact sheets, useful contact information, utility numbers, and then just like kind of the great things that we have here, that kind of heartstrings, I guess we would call it, just like because we are very close knit.
And where would you put them out to?
I think we should have it down here in the office. It should be online.
No, right, like online, to market it outside of the town of Stafford, because it's mostly in Stafford, right?
I think we would need to work a lot with developers, real estate agents, the Talon Chamber of Commerce. I recently went to the different things with CCM and really work on a statewide level. I connected with some other people from EDC and Haddam and other towns, and we're not unique to some of our issues, and I think that if we collectively work with other people, learn from other people, we can really.
I think what's so important about what she's talking about is we can't forget we're competing with other towns. They want the businesses too. Everybody wants to grow like that, industry and business. So we have to compete better. We have to be better at our package, our presentation.
And letting businesses in.
Well, first of all, drawing them, and then obviously making it a place they want to be, of course. Absolutely. But there's a lot of competition out there, you know, the talk of a tax abatements or whatever. Towns, cities fight constantly to give away everything to get this business in for jobs or whatever reasons. Sometimes it falls on its face, sometimes it doesn't, but we're not alone in this competition, that's the problem.
One idea along the lines of tax abatements is to look at creating an enterprise zone. So you can create an enterprise zone to give incentives to people to come in for new construction, obviously, but also existing businesses. There could be something available to help them with code upgrades or expansions or something else.
Did you say enterprise zone?
That's an enterprise zone, as in an incentive zone, not a planning zone?
An incentive zone, yes.
Right. It's an incentive zone where
Incentive,
money's
not
available to
planning.
develop this area, or if you invest in this area in town, these incentives may be available, that's what.
You know, and that's something big, long-term to look at. It's nothing that I don't think that we're gonna fund in our current budget situations. The cities that do it usually do their homework, do their research, figure out what they wanna do, how they wanna do it, and figure if they get a 3 to 5 year buy-in, what's it gonna cost them, and then they go out and they bond it, and they use that to promote, to say, this is what we have for you.
And you can even use that to help existing businesses stay.
That's what I worry about,
Or-
giving tax abatements
Yeah,
to
but-
people, new people coming in.
Right.
We have some businesses right now that we need to keep here. And I have spoken to them about expanding, and I know TTM wants to expand, and honestly, we need to keep them in town.
So,
So what
we have
can
some
we
new
do?
construction going on, right?
Yeah.
We've got Abishine going in, we've got O'Reilly's
O'Reilly's.
going in, so as things start being constructed, people will come through town and say, oh, yeah. this
We have
is happening.
Cumberland's that's
So now-
feasible somewhat.
Yeah, Cumberland's, is that still a viability to go into where Backus is?
Yes.
Because I think that's an important section of town
I think that
to make
whole
look
area.
nice. If,
Well, help that
if
corridor.
if that starts looking
long as we
better,
don't
maybe,
tell people
maybe
can't
people
come.
come through and say,
Package
hey,
zone
this
and
is
zoning
happening.
change,
Right.
absolutely.
We
So-
did see a site plan, John, it's gonna be beautiful, like, have you seen the new ones like in
Yeah.
Manton? That's what it will look like.
So, we talked a while back about, there was a question about having another gas station while 7-Eleven is still there. Was there some stipulation you talked about because of?
There was originally a deed restriction on the
Right, that's
property
what you talked about, yeah.
that
So
expired
that-
after 25 years.
Okay, so that's expired,
And
that's
there's
no
like a
longer an
sightline
issue.
restriction on the deed, and that's.
But there is
that's it.
something else that the zoning board just fixed, that
Planning zone.
the way, planning and zoning.
Yeah.
The way it was worded, as Dave found out, you probably weren't gonna build a gas station anywhere in town.
Oh, really?
Dave
Well,
found
they're
an
restricted.
antiquated,
Right.
good thing for Dave, he
That Dave.
found that Dave,
Oh, that
not
Dave.
that Dave.
Dave,
The two
Dave.
Daves.
Both days are good, both days are good.
So great, okay, so that's good,
So
okay.
Richard, we changed it to allow Cumberland's come in, so that's what I was saying before.
Fully changed it to allow a
Just
gas
don't
station.
say
Right, a
you
gas
can't do it.
station.
A gas station,
Right, you can't
instead
do it.
of what, we went from 1,000 feet to 100 feet,
Yeah.
which is.
I do-
It was an
and
old,
the-
it was an antiquated thing in there.
Well, at that time, like every other, zoning's a living document. At
Right.
that time, they probably did not want a gas
Station,
station
right.
near any residence, any zones
May have
like
been
this.
driven by the state statutes originally.
It
I'm not
could
sure.
have been, could have been.
I remember when they wanted, Big Y wanted to go into Tolland, and their regulations didn't allow it. Do you remember that big brouhaha? Do you remember that, Ron? So they changed the regulations just for that
To adapt for
one
that, yeah.
permit. Then they changed it back to the original after they approved the Big Y.
Which is highly illegal.
Very illegal. Once you change it.
Oh, we got a lawyer here.
Thank God.
But
Well, they
the-
were proud
We
of
are
it when
not
they
gonna
did
be
it, but
like
everybody's
Tom.
shaking their
Right.
heads saying,
No,
We don't
"Oh."
need to be like anybody. And that's one of my big things. We need to be like Stafford.
Okay, so,
We
so
don't
along
need
that,
to-
step, I just wanna finish my train of thought here. So what happens to 7-Eleven? I mean, really? Do we feel, I mean,
They may
I really
feel-
like the guy, he's a real nice guy. I've talked
There's
to him
rumors.
many, many times.
We don't know
So-
for sure, but there's rumors that Cumberland's might buy that.
That's what, okay, and that's what I was kinda,
It's just a
is
rumor.
there a
Nothing's filed
chance
in the
that
town,
something like that
nothing's
could
filed
happen?
in the town clerk's office.
I've heard the
I
same
could-
rumor from the other end of the state.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
really?
I just feel bad that, I love the idea. I love Cumberland's being there, I think it's gonna make it look great.
I like the idea of more
I just feel
tax money.
bad that
We have
this
to
guy is
figure out
probably
how
gonna
much
get pushed
bigger.
out.
We have to use the old buildings.
What are they gonna do with the old building?
Dave, what did they say they were gonna do with the old building?
Well, they were gonna sell it, they were gonna put a deed restriction on it, that you couldn't have a gas station there, and you couldn't sell lotto tickets, and you couldn't compete with.
Maybe they could sell it to the
Farms,
town
but
for $1, so
you
they're
can do anything
put a
else.
parking
See,
space
my
there.
understanding was that they
Wow.
leased
Did
that
you just
land
steal
out.
my
Isn't
thunder?
That would
I
be,
said park.
when
Oh,
you
park.
look at
You could have a
I
nice
said
little business
parking.
there. If you took out the
You
pumps,
would have a nice
you've got
business
parking, you've got a
there,
nice
too.
building.
Yeah, yeah.
that'd be a nice addition to
On that-
municipal parking.
On that same tone, now there's something that was identified as being restrictive to gas stations, and it was corrected. I think maybe a closer look at the regulations as to anything else that could be deemed restrictive and explore what potential changes, if any, maybe there's no changes. But,
Right.
that needs to be looked at as well.
Absolutely.
we would do that based on any inquiries that the Board of Selectmen.
Right, past
or EDC
inquiries or
gets.
new inquiries,
Right,
is there a
right.
trend, or people applying for variances for, constantly over one particular.
Well, that's where
item, or-
EDC is crucial. If they come in
Right,
and there's an obvious pattern of concerns from an assortment of businesses, we gotta fix it.
right.
We gotta
Well, at least
we gotta make
consider
it right.
gotta consider it.
Consider it,
Yeah.
and we have to consider the rest of the town too.
Yeah,
As,
absolutely.
It's a matter, I think our duties are to walk the people through the process.
Right.
What we do down in Norwich is we have a meeting, it's a staff meeting every week. It's Norwich Public Utilities, it's Public Works, it's the building department, the zoning department, the town planner. Everybody's in the same room and talks about every single project that's going on in town and what the challenges are. And the one thing that I really noticed my very first meeting was there wasn't the negative connotation to the meetings of, well, they can't do that because. It was, here's the challenge.
Let's make
help
it
them.
work,
Let's
right?
What
make
do
it
we
work.
need to do to make it work? Which,
Right.
and not at any particular people, but this is how we've been in Stafford is, you can't do it because of this. Instead of, we need to change our mindset to say, what do we need to do to make this work?
that's why we're here.
And
I
I think we
think
can
this is
together, I
wonderful.
think we can move on.
Good start.
Because that concept was there, Richard, and now I think it's quite prevalent that, I think if we all work together, that we're not gonna have the animosity, or no, you can't do this, or I don't wanna do this, or whatever.
Well,
I think
the
that's right. And to
understanding,
work work with the person that gets the contact, Richard, is gonna be fabulous.
And the understanding of why,
You're
too.
ready to go.
You know, as Richard said before, and a lot of people don't understand, the zoning board of appeals can give a variance. The zoning board needs to follow the regulations. Now, they can quickly look at them, and agriculture is a good example, and say, hey, we need to fix all this. And then it's happening, it's been happening, and it will continue to happen, those changes will occur. But if someone comes in and says, I wanna do X thing, and as they both know, and the towns they work in, can't do that. Well, why not? Why was that there? Maybe it's time that doesn't belong there anymore, we need to change it, we need to fix it. But even though this right here, the regulations are a living document, we can't change it the night of a meeting.
No.
You know, an example of the architectural regs, which we did together years ago. The muted colors and so on, and colonial look and all that. I mean, whether it's truly enforceable is debatable. We've been told by the town planners that if it ends up in court, we probably lose. But the intention is powerful. When a business sees that, they understand that's what you're looking for. So those are there. A lot of people in town don't understand that that's part of our regs. We can't just ignore them because we feel like it.
Or change it on a one-to-one basis.
No, but
You
I
can't do that.
think we have to start looking at things ahead instead of having knee-jerk reactions
Yep.
to things that happen in this town, because that's all we're doing.
Right, we're reacting instead of.
We are
proactive.
reacting
True,
instead of
true.
being
Right.
proactive,
Absolutely.
and,
Well,
that's
that's the point of
something,
this meeting, right?
it is,
Right?
it is. But, I can't see, I mean, we're gonna be in a situation that isn't good. The only way that we can help our taxes in this town is to promote and to have a bigger tax base,
You see the state
period.
really squeezing us much worse than they have in
Yes.
the past.
But we can't keep relying on that. So we have to expand our tax base and figure out how to let people in. If I understand that the zoning regulations are regulations, and you can't change them overnight. But I'm quite sure that in those regulations, there are some leeway. I mean.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
It's interpretation,
So if a
of
business
course
wants
it
to
is.
come
Of
in,
course.
I mean, there are leeway in situations that we're in. We need to be very welcoming to people, and that's why I'm hopeful for the EDC to be able to alleviate part of that coming to you guys. Do you know what I mean?
So working with the town plan, she said she's had inquiries and everything, Richard, which I think is quite an accomplishment.
Like inquiries, what, about coming out for a business
No,
in
like,
town?
like I had that conversation with you,
Yeah.
just like conversations, there was someone
Right.
who had a brewery and they
Right.
literally just say like,
Yes.
what do you think of Stafford? Like,
Right,
What
right.
is
Right.
the overall tone of the community, like, that sort of thing, so nothing like a serious,
Right.
like, I would certainly point them to the proper channels.
Yeah, because I think
but
we
it
have
was a
to
casual conversation.
market outside of the town. Like we have to promote within town is great,
Yeah.
but we have to promote without the town, I think, and let people know, hey, we're here, we're Stafford, we're not all these other towns that we like to compare ourselves to, we're Stafford and we're great and let's go. And that's what I like about having, did I burst my bubble?
No. Well, another clarification, it's not clear to me, I know it was an issue, I know it was being looked at, is the sewer plant capacity. A lot of discussion about physical capacity, regulatory capacity, and one of the sticking points 2 years ago was the hospital connecting to the sewer plant, and the hospital's now undertaking construction of their own septic system, so.
That does open
So
up.
I would think that would free up
I checked that.
allocation, right, I mean, that information, I'm not aware of
Absolutely,
it.
I just, actually, that's funny, I was in a meeting this morning with, Rick was there, Hartenstein, and I asked him about that, and they did add it back in, and I
Yep.
can't remember the exact.
I mean, that's
amount he told me.
information
It's a
that,
big change.
that's information that
Absolutely.
Amber needs to know, and the
Absolutely.
EDC needs to know.
And I don't know if you knew
Especially if we're
what was
gonna
going
get a
on with
manufacturer.
that.
Yep, exactly, depending on what they
The
do.
capacity at the water pollution control plant, every time, like, it was constantly, we don't know if we can have a business come in because the capacity isn't right, the capacity's not right. Anyway, they were holding, I don't know what you
Right,
call
they
it.
buy, I think it was by, due to the consent order on the
What do they
hospital,
call
they
it?
Buying
had,
credits or
they,
something like
well,
that? Or-
no, they had to hold, set aside,
A capacity for the
Tony probably
hospital?
knows better than I do, they had a capacity set aside
Yeah.
for the hospital to connect to because it was going back
Just
and
in
forth.
case.
And then that vaporized, so now I'm assuming that capacity is off the table for the hospital.
And then when Woodland Springs came in too, they had to consider that, that was.
Right, we had the capacity for that, but that's when
That's
when
when
it came to people's attention that we were getting
Getting
close.
close,
Right,
right?
it's not a physical capacity, it's a regulatory capacity.
Right,
But we just gained a lot from the hospital.
Well,
That
as-
opened the door.
As you
Or we just saved
know,
ourselves from putting an addition onto the sewer plant.
right,
Possibly.
so far,
For now.
but as you know,
Kick the can down.
we,
Yeah.
under Dave's, Homburg's, direction, changed that horrible plaza down behind Colossus there. That zone is now highway industrial, in case you didn't know.
Right, That's
So
flexible for retail or
Yeah.
manufacturing,
Retail
light
or
light
A small
industrial.
machine shop,
Yeah.
woodworking, whatever, but I don't know if that's still the original owner that's let
It
it
is.
slide.
One thing,
That could be someone you could contact.
Right, is
Oh, I've
that
spoken to
something
him
EDC could do, is try and
Yeah, too.
mend fences with that guy and try and clean that mess up
yeah, I mean,
somehow?
we can do it, I mean.
Sewer and water there, that's key.
Honestly, I got
All
a call
along that
6
area,
months
we
ago
need to
from his
promote that whole
consultant asking me
area.
Well,
if I wanted
that's
to
what
work
we
for
did
them
with the
to
plan
try
of
to do something,
conservation
and I
and
said, nope.
development.
yeah, but we haven't done it, that's what we're
Well,
saying,
that's
that's what.
that's why we're here tonight, Mary, yeah, right.
No, Another
So-
thing, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Another thing we can do too, and I don't know if Dave ever implemented or if you're doing it, but the way the regulations are written, somebody comes in to establish a business. They can't establish that business without approval, it has to be in the appropriate place. We never forced someone to grab a zoning permit so that we could make sure that where they were establishing their business was appropriate. So we have a
Right.
lot of businesses that are just spread wherever, and they're not in the proper zones. And it's
Right.
just, it's evolved that
Well,
way.
we have a tenant fit-up form, so
Right,
somebody
Dave
wants to move in,
created
they
that.
fill out the tenant fit-up form. So now there's the new Stafford pool supply in town.
These people that pop up, we
Right.
had businesses pop up
They didn't do
everywhere,
anything,
like on Main
they
Street,
haven't
every
seen
oh,
the
yeah, you
town
can go
clerk,
there.
they haven't
Right.
seen
permit, we
the
didn't
zoning
Okay,
guy.
so that's,
Oh, they
yeah,
haven't.
I mean, I'm
They
just,
got
that's,
signs
yep,
up and,
that's good, because
But
that's
we
a
have
step
the
for us
form.
to,
So I went from a house to there, so that's a.
yeah.
I also think
But
that you can
it's-
use Amber and me
Mhm.
to help you guys.
Right.
Because you can be lost out there as a commission without sort of a staff person in the building to, you know, make copies or make emails or just do the, you know, the sort of grunt work that makes your commission tick.
Right, so if you find businesses or somebody contacts you, then you contact Amber. I want you to reach out and, or whatever, and then maybe talk to Dave, can it go there? And the plus about this is, you are a zoning enforcement officer and you were in Stafford and you live in, so you know the regulations, you know where that can go. So this is a great stepping stone to start this.
So opposed to telling them, no, you can't do that, let me see what I can do.
That's
Right.
absolutely right.
But I have a question about when Peter Kowaleski was on the board and he wasn't chair yet, he said to a meeting that all these wouldn't come here because our population was too low. So how often do we have to
All
consider
these,
things like that?
all
Peter
these,
was on the EDC, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah.
Peter was, and then he was
Okay.
chair for a bit, and then I think, then.
Does anybody have any
Yeah,
paperwork on
Ambrose,
that?
I actually pulled the paperwork for, I went on Aldi's
Absolutely.
website and I have it sitting on my desk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they
anyway,
have,
that was
they have a
nice.
cookie cutter diagram of everything they want and all their criteria. And I
Because you
also-
called, right,
I
when I was
spoke to all,
working.
well, I tried reaching out to Aldi's, I tried reaching out to Market Basket. There was another conversation with Geisler's.
That's where I got the information,
Yeah,
market
when I was
analysis.
down
Yeah,
there.
the only point was
Population was the
population
I
biggest.
wise,
spoke,
like,
I
do we have
spoke to
to
They
all
have
these.
different diamond, yeah.
I spoke to Aldi's before David reached out to me, before
Aldi's.
Dave was here, and Aldi's wants a population of 15,000 in your community or a 3-mile radius. And we're just at that cusp. And really, honestly, the woman that I talked to in South Windsor in the real estate division, she just had an attitude, she could care less. I
Well, they
said-
also, they want a corner lot and a
I
signalized
s-
intersection.
I said, you know, our people,
Oh,
our
is
people
that what
love your
they
store,
want?
they're going to Enfield, they're going to Vernon, and she says, well, they love our store, they'll continue to go there. Which, you know, it's disheartening, because I think a store like that could really thrive
That
here.
would
It
benefit
fits
this
in
town
good.
hugely.
But you know, and I'll talk to Amber and the
So-
commission, and we'll reach back out to them and try to,
What about
That's what I was gonna say.
IGA? That's a smaller type.
yeah, I think Fran had reached out to some IGA, or the
Maybe-
IGA.
Maybe again, maybe reaching out again, or Amber could.
Yeah.
Once you get a welcome or marketing
Here's a-
package together, say, here's what we offer.
Another supermarket.
That's what we need.
You know what, and sometimes, I've been to quite a few meetings on regionalization now. So can we connect Union to us to have 15,000 people? Well, not Union.
There's one.
Well,
But do you know what I mean?
well, I really think we're
I'm
really
sorry.
close when you look at the 3-mile radius,
Yeah.
because
We are.
when you really, if you took and you could
We could
populate
combine.
it by a
Wilmington
GIS to get the
and
population.
Massachusetts,
It might be
Of
as
course we
close.
could. So is that a way to do this? Can we approach them on that? Why not
Well,
try?
I think we should have a marketing package in hand.
Absolutely.
And we should have
Right.
what our town population is, what our population is, including the five, you guesstimate, you're working off the state EDC data. There's also another tool, I mean, it costs money, actually you can look at for free. I think you can do a trial period, it's through like ArcGIS, but it's a marketing tool. And it'll tell you all your demographics, it has all the census data built into it. I think you can do 1 or 2 sample runs and then you gotta pay a pricey subscription. But you draw a radius, it'll tell you the
Yeah.
medium income of everybody, and that's different towns and everything else.
So
It's
maybe
just-
if we go to some place like that, we
our
can market
competition.
ourselves
See our
by
competition.
that.
Yeah.
Right, we have
It's
to
worth a
put,
shot.
we have to put some money
3,000
into it.
Exactly, it's an investment.
On that ad,
Budget.
you gotta be able to talk.
Don't you have a budget?
Anything over.
Not a
Not a lot.
Not-
Nancy, don't bring
not
that up.
anymore.
So anyway, well, when they get to the infrastructure, on a weekend, have you ever tried to drive through Main Street or whatever? I think with the 190, the 32, I think we have an excellent thoroughfare.
But we need to make
For-
them stop. They're driving through.
Right,
a hotel.
but they're saying the infrastructure, we don't have a good,
Localities have it.
we do, we have 19, we have 190, we have
Dennis isn't here,
32,
I
we
need
have
to
the
say
highway
it.
exit. I think the infrastructure is there, I believe. The population's not and the income is not.
Or
Yeah,
everybody was out of town to do it.
we
Absolutely.
have to market, it's as simple as that, which is
Simple.
why that position was
Like
created.
Dato's left, that's why.
So we have to promote Stafford as a place of destination, not just for businesses, but for people to come here. We've got some things, we've got different town events, we've got now some businesses downtown. So it's going towards the right direction, now we need this glossy package
Sure.
and figure out how to present it.
Technology's not our friend right now.
Well, I don't think we can survive, and this is only my opinion, I'm just shooting it out there, on the businesses on Main Street, as wonderful as I think they are, but I don't, I think we have to move more, and I think we can do a good combination of large businesses. I'm not using big box, I'm not using any of that, because I kind of agree. I don't know if big retail stores are where it's at anymore,
We need to
I
find
don't
They're
that
know.
out.
not, the-
We,
We're
and
not
I
that
think
type
we
of town.
can.
and the
if we
brick and
had a-
mortar's not working
Well,
anymore, they're
if we, it
saying.
depends on what it is, if we have a plaza, that we can put like a small grocery store in, and then have an antique store
Well,
in
you need
here,
to- you need to
and
have an
then
anchor
have
store,
maybe
and you
another
need to have-
restaurant in
An
here
anchor.
or something. We do, but I think it's great, the businesses on Main Street, but I don't think the town is gonna survive on just that.
And just to clarify one other thing on behalf of planning and zoning, if I may, Nancy, is planning and zoning, in the zoning regulations, there are permitted uses for each zone. Planning and zoning regulation cannot say, we already have 2 Chinese
Right,
restaurants, we don't
absolutely.
want one more, or we have,
Right,
the number of
5
package stores is
package
dictated
stores.
by the number of state, or permitted by the state. A retail business is a retail business, if there's 10 vape stores in a row, that's
It doesn't
permitted by the
matter.
regulations.
we have to permit it, and do we get annihilated
Well,
on social
right, and-
media
and-
with that
and-
one?
And that, if we do not, if they meet the regulations and the commission
We
does
have
not
to get
approve
sued.
them, the town will be sued,
Correct.
And we'll lose.
and will
Correct.
lose.
That's why, 2 or 3 part stores, I'm
For
sorry.
some reason, we have a lot of vape
Can't help
stores.
But we have to give we have to put our personal opinions aside a lot of the times, whether it's something we want or not. It has to go by what the regulations say.
Right.
So personal opinions have to go aside, but.
Right,
One thing we can talk about in our EDC meeting is potentially these incubation spaces. And if the Penny School is sitting there indefinitely, that could be a space for that. And then those businesses might stay or move into a bigger space if they're successful.
I had heard that at the historical advisory committee, when somebody had brought that up. I guess I would just have to find out, and I don't think they said it at that, like, who would pay for the renovations? Who would own the building? Who would do all
I think
that?
you lease it. Well, it's like I said, this is a.
Yes, absolutely, and
they,
somebody did bring that up, and it was actually a very good idea.
We have right now a great incubator. You hear people crying about the Big Y Mall not being full, but it's an incubator, and it's a quite successful one. Aubuchon learned, of course, they're incredibly slow. I mean, they're the tightest group I've ever seen, and 2 years ago, they got approval. They're finally gonna do it now, but they found it worked in Stafford. Family Dollar found it worked in Stafford, moved out of there, and built their own building. So, in a lot of ways, I know yet we hate to see empty storefronts there, but that's a great incubator. If we could get businesses in there, they're gonna learn if Stafford suits them or not, and then they expand and grow, they take over an old building, they
And then
build
we
a
have
new
empty-
building,
I know.
and then a new business comes in and decides if this works or
Oh,
not.
sorry.
So the incubation thing is a great idea, whether it's in the Penny or right at the Big Y.
The existing buildings by Country Village shops.
That's what I was talking
Good
about.
one.
And changing that zone to allow both retail and
Well, right,
industrial.
and it does, if the property owner, if we get the property owner on board.
Good luck.
I know, it's
That's the hard
frustrating.
part. That's
Right.
the hard part.
Well, if you could get a realtor in there that wanted to buy it and take it off his hands,
Right.
I bet he would be very
What's his biggest
conducive
beef?
to that, right?
He doesn't have a beef, he's letting it sit.
Yeah, they had an alternative proposal that they wanted to try for, public,
Affordable housing.
affordable housing years ago.
Just with the tax rate schools to know.
Oh,
Well-
it wasn't the spot for affordable housing with the pond and
And
the cemetery.
affordable housing's no longer
It's a
permitted
matter of
there.
having a
Right.
cemetery next to affordable housing.
Well, you had that pond right there and all you had was blacktop.
Well, the zone
And
doesn't,
you know affordable housing's gonna be all
you
children.
can't put it in for the zone right
You
now.
can't do it, that's why the zone was changed, highway industrial. You know, it's, wasn't conducive, but if you wanna do
That's a whole
affordable
nother gray area,
housing,
and
by
it's
state
not
law,
a
we
gray
have to
area, it's
allow it.
pretty clear, actually.
We have to
If somebody
allow
wants
it.
to come in,
No,
they
of
can do
course,
it,
yeah.
unless it's a zone that there is no residential permitted.
So I can't do what I want, so I'm just gonna let it rot.
Yeah, I
Yes,
don't
that's
know, I mean,
basically-
between but the taxes are paid as far as I know, and
He's got a lot of other business.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it doesn't really hurt
People
him.
move in, then they move out,
That's right
and they
on.
move in,
I
then they
think the
move out.
back row has been empty for years.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
years,
well, I mean, he's had tenants move in the plaza where the pizza shop is,
yeah.
that didn't even complete moving in because the property owner didn't live up to the promises
That's
of the
right.
lease.
Yeah.
Well,
Before they even opened.
He
Well,
treated everybody
there was a
bad.
developer that came from Holyoke, Chicopee, help me here, I forgot, that bought out the co-op and
Springfield.
Springfield. Yeah,
Colvest
right.
is pretty good.
And their proposal, they had to go out and find the rents. They had to go out and find
They
CVS
didn't build the second building until
That's
they
right.
had.
until they had the rentals,
Including the liquor
right.
store.
They have a
So-
20-year lease with CVS.
So I think
Built it to their
where I'm
specs.
coming
Yeah,
from
those guys are no
is
joke.
you,
Those are no
if
joke.
somehow you could find a developer that is looking for a spot such as the Country Village shops.
Maybe try to meet the two up, the owner and a potential developer.
maybe he makes-
Right, and
make
a little
because
money,
they
I mean,
tore down the
we
co-op
get what we
and,
want, right?
and it's a nice building now, I think, and, you know, because you've got the, and another thing is poor Roger Rossi wants to, we're gonna do something.
Absolutely.
That would be absolutely perfect there.
But there's a couple of things that we're gonna clarify if people are gonna watch this meeting. To clarify, as elected officials, and I looked into that, I think Dave was still here, and the new Dave, Country Village shops, right? So, it's privately owned, if they weren't breaking any laws, if it were, right, so they could keep those doors unlocked, which they did. I've had
Absolutely.
Dunkin' over there, zoning enforcement officers, though, the fact is, the town can only do so much to create issues that we can resolve, either through blight or other. So we will use, my guess is, every means possible for us to invite new and then fix existing, because we got a lot of empty places. But again, everybody would love to say, hey, just go in there and arrest that guy or
Absolutely.
clean it up, and you're like, wait a minute,
Can't
can't
do
do it. Rich knows, it's been around, now Mary knows. So we all are working together to try to resolve a lot of these issues. As long as the town sees that, extremely important, and we develop this marketing plan. Clearly, we care. It's not like we're all in a silo trying to get things done. And I think that's the most important message from this meeting for the folks in town to realize, hey, we all care about the town, which is why we're here. So we're working for them, and that's our plan.
Excellent.
Saying it and then acting it is where they need to see us
So
start doing that working
Since
together.
it's getting kind of late, well, I guess we've done our future goals, our roles, and scheduling of regular meetings. I'm just throwing out that. Do you think this group can come together regularly? I don't mean once a week, maybe, give a time frame.
Quarterly, yeah.
Or can, yeah, or could
Quarterly or
it
every
be,
other month?
Every other
could it
month
be
possible?
sooner if, like, say,
Well, something comes
the
up.
EDC comes up, maybe they can call
You
a
could
special
call a
meeting for
meeting.
everybody?
But in the interim, let's have a set meeting. Do you wanna have our own or after the Board of Selectmen like tonight?
We do 4 a year.
All right.
Well,
Thank God something's.
normally the Board of Selectmen meeting does not
They
go
don't.
nearly
It's-
that
Yeah,
long. We
and
clearly had a lot.
That's why
a lot
I
of
was
discussion.
very hesitant about having it after
An hour,
this
we'll
one.
never get back.
Right, so I figured we would only meet for an hour, and I was watching, when it got to 8:30, I figured, well, if it's gonna go any longer, we'll postpone. I'm throwing it out, what does
I
everybody
think
think?
every other month would be good, just to keep it solidified.
Going,
you
seeing
know?
how your market plan, if you need something from someone, or if you need something from zoning, John and Mary, if you've heard anything, we could, okay, but when and where and
Yeah,
what
we should
time?
meet at
There's
the,
property for sale across the street from Dunkin' Donuts.
Do-
Just saying.
Well, do you wanna try again after the next, like, let's say, 2 months away after a Board of Selectmen's meeting, see if
Your-
it works out
Yes.
okay?
Your
If it
first
doesn't
meeting?
work
Well,
out, and it
and
lasts
what
long,
we
then
can
we
do-
but you're never gonna get
Yeah.
all 19
First
during the
Tuesday?
summer to be,
That's
That-
right.
That's all right.
Maybe just the chairperson.
chairs.
unless you meet
Yeah.
at the cidery.
Or anyone who wants to, if you're here, you want to know.
Right, and I
Mandatory
think
meeting.
it's
think
not
it's just
a
keeping
the
mandatory
flow
meeting, trying to
Flow of
get the chairman
information.
here.
Even if you
and-
can have 1 or 2 people, if that's all that can come from each committee coming, and then it
Absolutely,
keeps the
if
flow.
they all wanna come, fine, if just a few.
But again, if we get somebody on the hook,
Oh,
ring the bell.
absolutely.
Ring the
Oh, yeah,
bell.
ring the bell and we'll all be here, right, Amber? With bells.
I would suggest you try one for a month from now to see where we
Oh.
can get her with a marketing idea.
For the first,
Right,
next
sure.
month, next month,
Makes sense?
the first Tuesday
A marketing idea for
It'd
bringing
be the
the
first
business.
Tuesday in May.
in May,
You
does
wanna
that
we'll
work?
try it, if it
Yeah.
works like it's gonna go too long again, we can.
Well, you know what we can
Different for
always
the next
do,
time.
I mean, I don't, what's the date on that?
well, if it's our own meeting, it'll be.
It's early.
What
Early
is it,
May,
Jim?
it would be, hold on.
Because, I mean, we
Why
can
don't we just
always,
use
if there's
calendar?
not anything
First Tuesday is the
hugely
first.
important coming up, we can always just
May
have
Day,
our
oh.
meeting
Yeah.
be a little less.
Well, we could pick.
Pardon, what did you just say, Mary?
No, I was just telling, I was saying that if we know we have the meeting afterwards, we can make sure that maybe our meeting is a little light. Do you know what I mean?
Normally, yes,
Our
it's
agenda.
20
It
minutes, I don't
normally
think it was
is,
20
and
minutes.
it was just tonight, and that's
Yeah,
why.
it would be May 1st. would be-
May first,
We'll give it a shot,
Sounds
that's got the list of people that are here. and
May
if
1st,
Whoever can
okay.
make it, worst case is you get the chairpersons.
so an
31.
agenda item would be just,
Again,
Status report meeting.
no, status report from Amber.
Amber,
twice?
On a marketing package for
Okay.
prospective businesses,
Uh-huh.
correct? Yeah.
I think that's the only item we need.
And then
In Rich,
Rich, you have anything you want to agenda on?
No, I just wanna find out the members of the EDC, if next Wednesday or Thursday, if I call a meeting, does anybody have anything going on?
Because you have to have a meeting in order to set your meetings,
Yes, I have
right?
to have a meeting. So Wednesday's up for you. Wednesday.
Wednesday's good?
The date?
Wednesday.
The 11th?
Yep.
I think I'm all right, yeah.
Wednesday?
How many people are
Yep.
Okay, so
That'd be the 11th.
I'll get an agenda set and mailed
Sorry, now?
out for the
Good.
11th.
This is just quickly, the Rotary Club is having a business kind of meet and greet, which the EDC had done several years ago, something like that. Were you invited, Rich?
Yes.
Okay, or do you think other members from the EDC could go, or the
Might be an
RSVP?
official meeting.
I'm not sure. I got a call from one of the Rotary members asking me to come. I can call and find out. I don't.
Sorry, I think I've been invited to do that.
Mary, yeah, I was gonna say Mary, John, or Tony, were you
I
invited?
think I was invited to that, yeah. She called Eileen.
Okay, I mean,
Was it
they-
Eileen
Yeah.
that's doing it? Yeah.
This was sent
I
to
already-
me.
Yeah,
Ordinance.
yeah, anyway, nobody from zoning,
I
okay.
didn't know, I put it to.
Yeah, that's okay.
If you wanted.
Yeah, I just didn't know how many people.
That was it, thank you.
Okay, I guess if they could have.
So we're gonna give a shot for May first,
Okay.
what was that?
May first for our next,
Following the-
What
What are we
special
calling
meeting.
ourselves? Is
I
it-
don't know, what are we calling
The Holy
ourselves?
Trinity of municipal.
The
Well, it's not a new committee, right?
Holy Trinity.
What do you want us to call it?
Well,
Besides, John, I know what you're thinking.
just call it the joint meeting,
The joint meeting?
because we're gonna have,
Oh, Mary, do you know what you just said?
I do, and I will stand with that.
Gummies for everyone.
There's gotta be another word.
Oh, it's gotta be another
I'll
name
come
for
up
the.
with
Amber will come
Yeah,
up with a clever.
Well, it's not a committee, so,
Right,
it's not a committee,
It's a
so we just,
jointly joined committee.
I don't think we need to name it.
No.
The merry group of.
Good.
People who've got big hearts and love staff.
I just wanted to say,
The merry Frankfurt.
Wait a minute.
Hang on one second.
hold on. And as I look around the table and I see like John, Rich, like obviously your involvement with public and municipal work is greater than mine. So, and that's just looking at you. But I would like to leverage that with like, because I can do the marketing strategies, the design projects, all that good stuff, Dave. So I want to just like, I don't know, just come together because we're just on the cusp of something so great. I really feel like we can just get to that next level in my life.
Oh, we're gonna do that.
All right, Mary, kudos, we did it.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
We did it, John.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Aye.
Oops.